thank you all for joining us at the July 24th Economic Development Committee meeting. We have a quorum. May I have an approval for the April 24th meeting? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting minutes are approved. We have some items for consideration. First, A, Great Merchant Grants, Howard Street Business Association. Thank you, Paulina.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Today I bring forward to you request for funding from the Howard Street Business Association for $250 for social media advertisements. They will be holding their first open house on September 5th. About 10 businesses will be participating, and we want to pay, because I've been helping them, pay for advertising through Facebook and Instagram. And all the printing for the posters as well as flyers will be done in-house. Unfortunately, the members could not be here tonight, but I'm here in the representation.
Thank you. I'll start with a comment. I am excited to support this. I love what's happening on Howard Street, all those businesses there. There's so much light and excitement. So I'm saying yes. Are there any other, yes?
I just want to make sure I heard this right. Did you say 250,000?
No, 250.
No, well, that's why I'm wondering why you, okay.
Yes, 1,000. I put 5,000. I apologize. No, just
No,
200.
you didn't say that. I just,
okay.
you know, $250, you
Yeah.
have to come here for that?
Well,
Yeah.
there's other
Okay,
matters.
I know, I'm just, okay.
Yes.
I support it too.
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Paulina. And we have B, Entrepreneurship Support Grants. We have 2 applicants. We'll start with Ms. Sharice Roberson, Get Twisted Designs. Welcome, Sharice.
Hello.
How are you? My name is Sharice Roberson. I'm the founder of Get Twisted Designs. I'm sorry, I'm just coming from the dentist and I'm sure to apologize.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
For having me. And I'm requesting funding to help me with my at-home business that I've been doing for pretty much the last 15 years, but the last 10 years really strong in my home. And I started a custom bow tie line and jewelry making also to go along with it. I make custom garments, do alterations, recreations, and things like that. And last year I did really well, and business has been really thriving for me. So the plan is hopefully to go from my home into a brick and mortar soon, just requiring some, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You
Y'all know how bad that could be.
That might make it work.
Okay.
You need some additional equipment to keep your business.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And a lot of the information is in the package, so I don't feel the need to have to go
Okay.
through it, and we all read through it.
Oh, okay.
So you just, might be a good time to.
Try
Is
to
there
make
any
it
discussion?
early.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
How much were you asking for?
She's asking for, $2,160. And it's all going to equipment, there's an iron, there's like a mannequin for her modeling to make her dresses, among other equipment that is outdated or that just needs some upgrading.
And you're doing this out of your home?
Yes.
That's good. And
Yes,
you want to
and it's so funny because I just got an order for 20 bow ties right before I came here. So, you know, just needing the proper equipment to really keep the business moving and get it to the next level.
Is this part of the
Yes.
business?
Yes. So
The
I,
entrepreneurship support program, yes.
So she has a mentor.
yes.
Good.
And she has completed not only the Community Business Academy, but she has also worked with Lent one-on-one, so she has completed both programs successfly.
I have a
What?
question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You knew. I'll be going all day.
Okay. I have a question for staff. So I saw that there's 2 applications. Is there an application window? Is this an open process that you continue to receive applications, or sort of what's the process?
Yes, it's an open process, so on a rolling basis, we bring as many successful applications as we get for the month, yes.
And so the prerequisite is that they go through the program?
Through some entrepreneurship training program, yes, whether it's the Sunshine Community Academy, whether it's Lent, whether it's growth with Rogers Park Business Alliance. We don't prescribe which program they go through, but we do require that they go through entrepreneurship training program, yes.
Paulina, what's the total budget for that program?
$50,000.
So it's rolling up to the point that the funding's exhausted?
Uh-huh. And what year, I'm sure this is in the package, but what year of the program is this?
This is the second year.
And so then do you guys track results of sort of previous funding efforts and how those entrepreneurs are doing and sort of maintain?
So for the first year, we have not done that. That is something that I'm working on, bringing some revised guidelines to the committee, which I'm hoping to bring this fall. That would require some reporting from our grantees, yes.
I would say that just to add, I do check in. So there have been businesses in my ward and other businesses that I'm very familiar with that I check in with, and I would be happy for you to do an official report because the program is working. This really met a need for the small micro business, the home-based business that didn't have an opportunity to participate in our matching grants and other sort of larger loans. So it's a unique grant opportunity that is serving an overlooked part of our business community.
I think that's helpful context, and I think to the extent that you can develop metrics, it even just sort of bolsters that argument even more. Thank you.
Do you still have questions, Mr. Powell?
You know, with something like this, she has a business license that she has to use to operate out of her home.
I am a sole proprietor, and I do have a certificate from the state allowing me to practice, yes, at home. I don't have to do all the legalities as if I were a brick and mortar. It's quite different, but I do have a tax ID number and so forth. I do have to file my taxes, and I do have to do my sales and taxes every quarter and things like that, yes.
Okay, let me just tell you, as long as you can stay in your home, stay in your home. Okay? As long as you can. Okay? That brick and mortar costs money.
Yes, it does.
Alderman Rainey?
Sharice, were you ever in a store? Were you ever on Custer?
On Custer?
Yeah, did you ever have?
Your
My
sister.
sister had
Your
a
sister.
store on Custer.
I remember
Yeah, she
that.
did.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that. And
for years.
she was in the same business,
Yes.
wasn't she?
Yeah. Yeah, I taught everything I know, and her
Yeah,
husband decided that was the best thing, so they tried it out. And
yeah.
they did it for quite a few years.
Well, I'm sorry I was late. I'm really
We're
sorry.
glad you're
But your written presentation was absolutely fabulous. I mean, I don't know, you needed the money, so that's why you're here, but otherwise, I don't think you need our help at all. And you seem like you're just really,
She's seen it after spending time with Dennis. She's seen a lot of it. She made a commitment to come here.
you are really on your way.
She is, and I have had the pleasure of watching Sharice grow in business for 10 years, really more than 10 years, and I'm disappointed that I can't have an enthusiastic vote on this. I will have to recuse myself because she is a graduate of the Sunshine Business Academy.
You need a motion?
May I have a motion?
Absolutely.
I moved.
Second, all in favor?
I'll vote twice for you.
Thank you. Any opposed? And one recusal. Motion
Congratulations.
passes.
Go home.
Yes, you can vote. Yes.
I would do it with the alteration there.
Right. Next, we have Ms. Rachel Holmes of Confidence Now Consulting. Thank you for being here, Rachel.
Hello, Chair and members of the council. I am Rachel Holmes, and I am a consultant and coach currently in the city of Evanston as it relates to business, life, and relationships, where I provide tools, resources, and strategies for our clients as it relates to starting businesses, exceeding in life, but lack confidence to do certain things, and helping them better relationships, just from my personal experience and expertise and things like that. So on today, I am asking for funding to help start that business, and that's getting my LLC and getting supplies to do these things at home. So I need a laptop to provide services for clients, so I can do webinars and things like that, as well as podcasting and things to keep my audience and everything engaged.
Do we have any discussion? Alderman Rainey?
You got training, Lauren, you went to the Northwestern group for financial training and guidance
Yes.
and that kind. Where did you get your training to be a coach?
I went through 365 Consulting, which is under Karen Ratliff in Chicago, to get my life coaching certification.
And that's a certified, I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, it's
So
an
that's where
accredited
everybody
life
goes?
coaching consulting
Okay.
firm for coaches, yes.
And I might have read that and not realized what that was.
Mr. Powell?
Yeah, and also, this young lady I've been knowing for a long time. She had worked at Hector's Barbecue.
Should we make him accuse himself?
What did you say?
I'm joking.
No, what'd you say?
He was wondering if you have to recuse yourself.
Probably will have to. Well, I mean, she coached me, okay? But I've seen this young lady, she's grown a lot. And also, she used to work with a lot of staff because she's been through some stuff in her life that we don't have to go through right here or discuss. But she has the experience on how to work with young people. And she worked with a lot of our staff members and young people that are in high school and so forth. And she did a heck of a job. I'm very proud that she's going into coaching.
Thank you. I've also done partnerships with YLU, and I work on a weekly basis with Family Focus with Ms. Joanne's Girls Group in the area of confidence. So we do different workshops and things like that just to help build confidence, because I believe it's the secret sauce. It's not relationships, it's not resources, it's not funding, it's having the confidence to go out and do those things.
And also, I just have to brag on this also. But her father, in case you don't know, her father owned a little grocery store in Evanston when we were growing up. It was called Jack Moss Stop and Shop. And he did a lot of good things in this community for us young people. That's when I was young. And that's her dad. And she's taken a lot from her father. And that was back during the day when they couldn't get loans and et cetera.
Mr. Powell, where was that shop located?
It was, in the 5th Ward, on Emerson Street.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you for adding that.
yeah.
Is there any further discussion? So again, very disappointed and that I can't vote on this one either.
Can I vote on
You can vote on it. She just worked there, right? So it's fine.
Yeah.
That's been a long time ago, right?
it? That's been a while.
Yeah. And Rachel's being very modest. She also has a blog that I follow that gives you words of encouragement and makes you feel like you can conquer the world. Does a lot to unite women and has for some years now hosted large conferences for our junior high school population, which is the toughest group. That their feedback to me has been bullying is a problem and confidence, and so really appreciate the commitment that you have to serve the community, and she's also a 5th Ward resident. So.
I move for approval.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I abstain. Thank you. Congratulations, Rachel. We're going to move on to C, Equity in the Arts Hiring Program, Mudlark Theater.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Simmons. Good evening. I am Paul Zelmazak. I serve as the Economic Development Manager for the City of Evanston. Thank you, by the way, for coming tonight. It's a beautiful summer night, and it's good to have quorum, and we won't have to do this in August, and we'll regroup in September, hopefully with some new agenda items. So tonight, we've invited Mudlark Theater. We have Maureen Powers, the new executive director, and Daisy Copeland, who was hired by Mudlark with partially with funding that the Economic Development Committee last year, the City Council approved through a program called the Equity in Arts Program. This was a kind of a subset, the funding source is a subset of the city's Workforce Development Fund through the Economic Development Fund. Okay, so imagine that here you have the Economic Development Fund, the council approved workforce development, and under that workforce development, there's kind of a subsection where we added this program to it. At the time, the arts coordinator, Jennifer Lassick, devised a program that she felt was addressing a need in the arts community, and that was essentially diversifying the front office of arts organizations. And Mudlark was the first recipient after, I recall, kind of a small competition where a number of arts organizations sought out funding. So at the time when we approved this first round of funding, we intended and we demonstrated in our staff report that we would like to come back for a second round because this was viewed as a 2-year program. So this is the second year. They're seeking $25,000 to continue the program, and they are aware that next year they will not be seeking funding from this program if the funding is even available based on whatever the city council decides for the budget for next year. So I'd like the opportunity to invite Ms. Powers, Ms. Copeland up to just give a quick summary of what you've been able to accomplish over the last year, and both to introduce yourself because you're new to the game.
Yes.
And then I'm here for questions, obviously.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee for having us here tonight. My name is Maureen Powers. I'm the Executive Director of Mudlark. I started in January when we had a transition from Mike Mira, who you probably are all familiar with. At the time, Daisy was already our Development Director, thanks to the generous grant that we received in the Arts and Equity Program. A lot of things have happened. A lot of amazing things have happened at Mudlark, thanks to Daisy being on our team. I would say at every level, we have moved forward operationally, administratively, and programmatically. Her job is to be the development director, and she has done remarkable things for Mudlark in terms of our fundraising and building our capacity for cultivating donors and cultivating major gifts for the very first time. We were successfully able to meet a matching grant challenge with Evanston Community Foundation, launching our very first major gifts program. And all of that will help us as an organization to grow and be sustainable. But beyond that, her impact in terms of our quest for being a more equitable organization has been profound. We started as soon as Daisy joined us in a process of looking at all of our operations, all of our systems, really looking for any area that we could find bias or barriers to people having access to our programs. And we have, in that time, changed a lot of quick fixes that we could do, but really what we're spending our time on now and what the beauty of having a 2-year period allows us to do is build relationships. So we've been building relationships with and making partnerships with community organizations like Shorefront is working with us. We're partnering with Fleetwood Jordan Community Center to do new programming there, with the North Shore Choral Society. We are we're establishing a partnership right now with Fleetwood Jordan Theater Company. We are we've invited a lot of new young actors of color into our camps and into our performances. And we are right now developing a play about the desegregation of Evanston schools. And that, even though that has nothing to do with Daisy's actual job title or duties, she has been an integral part of us building relationships with the community of former students from foster school who we have interviewed, and we're writing our play based on those interviews, and then inviting younger people of color to be in our show to tell the story from a youth perspective. So there's so many examples I could give, but I just wanted to show how not only in her job, her actual job, how it's made us grow, her presence, just having her in our community, on our staff, has really had a ripple effect in all areas. And I'd really like her to speak to her experience as well, because I think beyond what it's done for Mudlark, she has expressed how this grant has really helped her professionally as well. So,
Good evening, members of the committee. I'm Daisy Copeland, the Development Director of Mudlark Theater. I cannot, I'm not exactly sure where to begin except for the beginning, which is in and of itself a demonstration of the problem with making sure that there is equity in arts hiring. I didn't actually learn about the position except through the old-fashioned relationship channels of referrals from my neighbors and fellow community members in my ward that I did work with. And those relationships were all built off of equity programming that I did as a parent at Kingsley Elementary and working with the School Advisory Council and the PTA. And about 8 different people told me about the role. But it really didn't hit home that this was the right role for me until Dr. Effia reached out to me through through Kimberly Holmes and my work with Advocates for Action at Evanston Cradle to Career, that it really coalesced that this was a role for me, because previously I was in corporate and I had only recently, before coming to Mudlark, decided to pursue a career in nonprofit. And so it was through all of that support, including my mentor, that I pursued the role. So that in and of itself, I think, is a demonstration of how important relationship building, authentic relationship building is to building relationships for an organization. You know, not only to solidify funding, but also to increase the audience reach and the youth that we impact, right? So in my time there, Marine's already mentioned a lot of things, so I'm not gonna focus too much on like what we've done organizationally, but I can speak to what I think would be important to you, which is the impact it's had on me as a woman of color, as a resident in Evanston that's raising children of color, and my career trajectory. Since I've been there, I've had access to very high quality training to help me in my role. We are a member of the cohort for Building the Future at Evanston Community Foundation, which gives me access to one-on-one consulting with Mark Hilton, who is premier in development. Also, I've recently joined the Women in Development Network, a network that is highly popularized by middle-class white women. Oftentimes, besides my mentor and I, we are the only women of color in there. So it's very interesting to hear from women who are different from me, but still very much experienced in the role. So I have access to the knowledge that they have to share with me as well. At the same time, they get the benefit of having my perspective as a woman of color and as a mother in the work that they do, right? And then also just through the Evanston Community Foundation's nonprofit management workshops that they offer, of which I've attended all but one, I was able to get access to Kellogg's course about advanced fundraising. So all of these things have been like really helping me plan strategically well for my own career trajectory, but also for the growth of the organization, which I'm excited about too. And in the next 2 years, we're starting to look at establishing an equity committee. We've already, the board of directors has accepted my proposal to establish an equity committee for the organization. We're drafting, that committee will be drafting an equity statement. We'll be using a racial equity impact assessment tool adapted from Race Forward to do a full analysis in advance of the new strategic plan as well. So there's lots to come, and I'm very excited to have been given the opportunity to fill this role particularly for Mudlark, and that it's another way that I as a community member also can impact directly my neighbors in Evanston.
Finally, I'd just like to say that we do have big plans, as Daisy mentioned, for the second year of the grant, and that part of her role too, together, that we will be raising the money to make her position sustainable after the end of this grant. But it really is, imperative to us that we have the 2-year period to do that. We've built relationships this year with our donors. We've demonstrated what we can do with that, and I know that we'll get there if we can have the time. Yeah.
And I'm confident that the funding community that supports Mudlark believes in me and what I can do for the organization as well. In fact, an anonymous donor has offered to help, should I become accepted to the next cohort of Leadership Evanston, has offered to help fund my participation through that.
I'm sure a donor would want to support the work that you're doing. Just fantastic. I can't say enough about how important it is that you are diversifying arts and telling these important stories in an artistic way that's engaging. I will say that $50,000, and this was in a workforce, was this from a workforce development fund?
Right, it came from the Economic Development Fund, the $100,000 approved, like the subset of workforce development.
Yeah, so with this being the second piece of a commitment, I don't think that this is the appropriate committee on a path forward for this type of work. We have an arts committee, we have an equity empowerment commission, we have parks and recreation. And I would like to see going forward the dollars that we allocate here on this committee to go towards revenue generating activity that's increasing the tax base and expanding the household income of families. And in this case, we have created one job, which is fantastic, and really thankful for the extended community that has embraced you and uplifted you. But I'm hoping that we could work with other committees here to get similar support for this type of programming. I just don't know about it being an economic development funding goal. Is there any further discussion on this?
Well, the theory is that the arts generate
Economic development.
economic development. I mean, you just have to go down to Howard Street and see the people flowing in and out of Howard Street Theater. I mean, it's huge.
I have a question. So are you guys capturing metrics when you're talking about, you know, the different diversification equity measures that you're taking? Are you capturing metrics, you know, in terms of the young actors that are participating in other ways that you're adding equity through the programs? How are you capturing that?
Well, we don't require anyone to, you know, disclose race on any of the registration forms. We invite them to. So we do have data. It may not be 100% complete because that's not appropriate for someone to answer that question. But from the data that we have, yes, we can demonstrate increase. And I would say that a lot of the increase in our diversification of our programs happened this year, and we can see the numbers where the numbers are going to go up next year because of the partnerships that we have developed, and just we're bringing programs to communities and to community centers, to places where we haven't been before, where kids would have had to come to us or would have been able to stay after school. And those are all barriers that we've recognized that not every kid can do that, can get to our headquarters or can stay after school. So we're going to be having partnerships with YOU or with Family Focus. We're building all those relationships now, excuse me, with the hopes of starting programming in the next year with them.
And if I could also, I'm sorry.
Do those partnerships sort of extend your capacity for more students or more young people to get involved? Because
Yes.
as a mom in Evanston, you hear chatter of like a lot of people wanting roles, and I'm an enthusiastic attendee of the audience there. But I hear of students that, you know, young actors that want to be involved and there's, you know, they don't get part. So do these partnerships sort of extend the capacity so that you're able to engage with more young people in Evanston?
Yes, so the play that we're developing about foster school is an entirely new addition to our calendar, so to our season. So it's and then we are in the next year kind of expanding in both directions. So having more opportunities for people who are new to theater to be able to be in a show, and then opportunities for kids who have been with us for a while, or special shows that we're doing, special topic shows, to go out. So for the foster play, we went out and invited, specifically invited people. It wasn't an auditioning thing, to try to pull in kids that had not been part of Bloodlark before, but we had identified through our partners' talents. So we're actively trying to bring new kids in, as well as providing opportunities for kids who come to us to have more places to be able to perform.
Thank you.
The thing that I wanted to add too, when you say metrics, so I also do the grant writing for the organization, so I'm constantly looking at that data. And of those families that chose to report their race and ethnicity, 28% in the 2017 to 2018 season reported as not white. And in addition, our board has greatly diversified. We still have seats on the board, if anybody has suggestions for folks, but what was once an all white board now includes 2 women of color, a woman who identifies as Hispanic white, and then in addition to that, we're establishing a parent ambassador program that will help us reach, basically by having a parent ambassador at every single school where we do programming, they'll be able to better inform us about how to reach their specific school community in the best ways. And then with the establishment of the equity committee, we're also identifying parents who want to help join us in this work to serve on that equity committee, not just our board members and staff representatives. And then I think another thing that's also worth knowing is in 2018 we gave out a total of over $40,000 in scholarships. As of July 1st of this year, we've already awarded over 36,000 as scholarships. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that we have just made the community more aware of what Mudlark has to offer, and we've made them aware that financial need should not be a barrier to any family that wants to access what we have to offer for their children.
Thank you.
And so I just wanted, Alderman Randy, I agree with your point about the arts and economic activity, but I feel like this is more, it's a nonprofit, it's a program, and we gotta figure out how to keep supporting you. I just don't know that this is the right use for these funds, although I'm supporting it now. Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I'm hearing all about the programs and everything. I think that's great and everything. I don't want to get down to what, diversity and all that's good, but you come here for some green. This is not no black and white stuff, okay? So let's talk about some money. You made a point, Rob, and I'm trying to understand this. You were talking about the Evanston Community Arts and some other programs.
The Arts Council, Parks and Recreation,
Right.
even Equity Empowerment Commission.
Right.
I don't know if they manage a fund, CDBG, in terms of it being
Well, if this came there, it would be a public service grant.
Okay,
That's
public
what it would
service
be.
grant, so that's what I'm saying. I
But-
think that we have so few dollars to uplift households with economic activity, I wanna focus on that.
No, I got you on that,
Okay.
but I'm thinking as far as helping them out, wonder if we threw in, let's say, we say we'll give them $3,000 and ask them to go to the rest of those agencies that you talked about and ask for the rest of it. I mean. You shaking your head, no, I'm just trying to get a deal here.
The reason I'm shaking my head about that idea,
Yeah.
I think Ms. Powers is about to respond to that, and then.
I was just gonna say that, so the grant as presented to us when we applied was a 2-year grant. That was contingent on a successful report. But we hired someone on that basis, that we would have 2 years of support and time to raise enough money so that in the 3rd year, we could fund the position itself. So if we were to lose this funding,
Well, wait a minute, let me understand something. Are you saying to me that you came here and you got what, the first time 25,000? What are you saying?
The grant that we had applied for was a 2-year grant, 25,000, as it was presented to us, it's 25,000 each year.
From this committee?
From this committee.
Okay, and then this committee said to you that we'll give you the other 25 the next year, is that?
If we submitted the report and it was successful,
Right,
yes.
that's what I'm asking.
Yes, exactly.
So that was,
We did this last year. We initially granted this a year ago.
okay, so wait a
they're-
minute, so we're reneging on the deal?
No,
No,
we're not.
No, we just
I don't know
asked
if
them to
that's-
come back and report to us before we.
Wait a minute, I got the other. Go ahead.
We asked them to come back and report to us what happened during their first year, and then we would, based on a successful report, which I believe we just heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That we would then provide the 2nd year of funding.
Okay.
And then from there, they're going to fly on their own.
Right.
So we had a big discussion about this last year.
Right, so last year when we had the discussion, I did have a couple of concerns about instead of, well, it doesn't matter, that was last year. Right now, you've done everything that we've asked. You've done more than we asked. My only comment really is more to the committee and to the community that I don't think that this type of program should be funded out of economic development. That's my only point. You've done everything that we've asked, far beyond what my expectation was, and thank you for that.
Well, I hear what you're saying, I get that. But I'm thinking, I think they're thinking that if they do everything, I mean, this is what I would be thinking if I was in their position. If I did everything that you asked me to do, and you told me I could come back for the second year, and I've done everything,
Right.
that I should get that money.
Right,
And I think we're all gonna vote yes.
We're about
Okay, well, let's vote.
Okay. All right. Mr. Alderman Braithwaite.
I so move.
Wait, Alderman Braithwaite had.
I have just a quick question.
Man, it's nice outside.
Money question. So in your pack, you talked about raising your fundraising efforts. You did a wonderful job explaining just how you were able to benefit. I'm curious about your fundraising goal. Are you close to raising that money? You're giving out more money, so if you're giving out more money, you're raising it. How close are you to raising that additional $100,000?
Right. So, yeah, so now that we're in the second half of the year, the great majority of what we have budgeted to raise this year will be coming in that last quarter. Also, we, just looking strategically at the organization, we've identified where we need additional funding beyond my role, right? And I've been doing a lot of research on grant opportunities, that could help support that. And then with the launch, probably the biggest thing is that with the launch of our Major Gifts program, we are asking for the community that we serve, those who have the capacity, to step up their giving so that we can do more. And we've already gotten a commitment from 20 different individuals who are giving us major gifts. And thankfully organizations like the Evanston Community Foundation matched us on that. So this year is going good. And actually, within the next few weeks, we're sitting down to begin our plan for 2020 and beyond. So, yeah.
You're on the right path.
We're on the right path.
Thank you.
Bravo, great work.
That's a
I just wanted,
One second.
just want to acknowledge, because I know you put a lot of work into it, and I thought it was really well done. Your written report
Yes.
is great, and I am sure that other organizations will find it really helpful on your journey, your first year journey. It's really very nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
very
once
much.
the program is available, if you could send the whole city council marketing material, we could put it in our newsletter so that we make sure folks get there and see the story.
Oh, yes.
That would be awesome.
One more thing.
Before Mr. Powell motions, we need clarification. Staff, are you asking us after this funding, I assume is going to be approved, are you asking staff to find a different approach to funding this program? Do we want to potentially continue this program and find other funding sources for it?
So the direction is, yes, I do think that we should support diversity in the arts through not through economic development, unless there is an economic component attached to it. This is a nonprofit. If it were a theater, a for-profit theater, or something more along those lines where it was creating jobs and generating ticket sales and having, merchandise and so on. But for this scenario, I think it's more appropriate in one of our other committees.
Okay, fair enough, and we'll work on that. And I also want to address Mr. Powell's question about the 2-year program. I recall several years ago, Alderman Rainey really pushing back on staff about multiple year programs. And I don't know if you remember that, but and one of the reasons why is because they're clunky when you're trying to deliver in year 2. So it's a little confusing, and we apologize for that. The program itself, I think, it's proven success. They did what we asked them to do. We should be delivering, but we can't make multiple year budget commitments in a single meeting. So we have to say, each year we're going to come back for a new round of funding.
Thank you
That's
for
what
that
we're confusing.
clarification.
So thank you.
Thank you. So we had a motion from Mr. Powell.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to talk to you about that foster
Great.
Okay, but that,
Was that your we
no,
have
my
a second-
motion, I move that we approve this.
Right.
And we had a second
And
from
I
Alderman Nguyen.
seconded, yes.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We have, oh, I'm really excited about this, D, Financial Wellness Initiative. But before we have our report from our brilliant staff, we have a comment from David.
It's a tough one.
Yeah,
David Tagnarelli.
Tagnarelli.
Tagnarelli, yes.
Yes.
So, Madam Chairperson and the committee, thank you for hearing my comment today. I'm the Business Development Manager for First Northern Credit Union, and we are a community credit union here in Evanston. One of our core missions as a not-for-profit that serves the Evanston community is financial wellness and financial education. We have a very robust program. We offer monthly workshops on the second Tuesday of every month. We typically have between 10 and 15 attendees. I also work with Kurt's Cafe and Carly Butler, and I provide financial education there bi-weekly. Yesterday we had a simulation for budgeting with Youth and Opportunity United. I'm also working with Shannon Callahan at the YWCA as part of their financial education initiatives. And Shelley Gates at ETHS, we're working on getting in there and providing some budgeting workshops as well. So I have materials that talk about everything we have available through the credit union. It is completely complimentary, so we are not here to ask for money. We're just here to say we're working through financial wellness and offering that to the community, and we would love to be a partner with the city of Evanston.
Thank you. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
And you loan money, right?
What's that?
You loan money.
We do, yes.
Okay, well, the city needs some money, so we can talk about it.
Okay.
Are you gonna bring material?
Yes, I'm gonna hand out materials to everyone, so I can do that.
Great.
That is fantastic. And again, as I mentioned, share it with the city council. We'd love to share that with our neighbors.
Awesome.
Yes.
Give some money.
But are you aware of this memo that our staff gave
Yeah,
us? Some,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, good.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. In some ways, I think you might be able to present this better than I think I mentioned that before.
I'm gonna let you do it though. You make the big bucks.
Thank you. It was sometime in the spring, maybe last winter, Alderman Simmons encouraged us to pursue the idea of a financial wellness initiative that we could launch citywide. And the idea being that we all learn things in school, many of us go to college, but we're never taught how to manage our own finances. And that simple concept of saving money. Sorry, no problem. That simple concept of saving money and building wealth and buying a home and so on and so forth, that's missed by a lot of people. So we spent a little time in committee last year debating this, and is it the right place to do it? And we all agreed that we should pursue it in this venue. At the time, we thought let's do an RFP and then pay somebody to deliver this service, or get the banks in a room, the credit unions in a room together, and have them battle it out and come up with the best program, or offer 20 different programs that we can just steer people to. But as I was researching and meeting with, for example, First Northern Credit Union, Byline Bank, Wintrust, they're all aggressively marketing programs in a way. And they all have kind of universally accepted, proven models. David, what is the name of your the program that you have a curriculum?
We do. We partner with a company called Balance, and they only provide financial wellness through credit union partners.
Okay, right. So there's already a program that exists. So we as staff thought, what if we do an RFP that identifies perhaps a single provider of service, for example, Balance, if that was the one that upon review staff recommends, or maybe there are two programs. And then what we would do is have an exclusive partnership with that credit union or the bank or multiple to be the provider of the service. We are writing in this RFP that we're not going to pay for this service. This is our role would be to market it, to be the bully pulpit, to spread the word, maybe to offer this room up for a seminar. or maybe offer up Gibbs Morrison space for a seminar, things like that, in kind, and in return we get a really solid program. So that's what we would like to move forward with. That's our recommendation. Seeking some input from the committee. We worked with the law department. This is something that is legal. We can do it this way. But the idea is, again, exclusive partnership. We'll vet the applications and we'll come back. Hopefully, I can't remember what I said. We come back. We can set this up as a 30-day RFP. Come back at the next committee meeting in September, maybe October. The summer. Bankers work in the summer, right?
We do.
So maybe
Well, I work in a credit union.
So we'll have something ready for September. So I'll open it up for questions or comments.
So I have a question. So does that include, I know you mentioned the YWCA has a great program, I think, for women in transition, for financial literacy there. So does it, they're not gonna be they're not gonna cover everybody's needs, but they do a great program.
Sure,
I
think we should open it up. I'm not sure if they could deliver a citywide program at no cost, but I don't know why we would limit it.
Yeah,
There would be no cost, that would be where the Y would have.
Yeah.
And I think, I've heard wonderful things about their program, right?
Yeah.
That's a resource that exists and people we're thinking that perhaps a program like Balance or others they have the capacity to deliver to a larger audience.
Yeah,
But we'll see, we'll open it up.
Yeah, and so our criteria, other than no cost, vetted, proven program, how are you gonna choose between them? What's the criteria?
That, we have to devise that. That I don't have a score sheet on how we would determine that, but that would be determined prior to selecting, and then we would also present that kind of matrix to the committee.
Yeah, because it seems to me like having a local or an Evanston-based bank or financial institution might be a criteria that we consider versus a global financial institution or something like that.
Right, and our purchasing guidelines are very clear on how we should measure. We have I think if a local company comes within 10% of others, that we can go with that higher, 5%.
Yeah. But we're not paying for this, but that's.
Oh, right, so how do we, so perhaps it's a, preference given the local banks. I don't quite know yet how we do that, but we'll have that drafted and reviewed by purchasing and law before we send it out, but I appreciate that.
So, Paul, I really like this idea, this way. I think I was attempting to create way too much work for staff and the committee. To give this to an expert that has the programming in place, I think is a much better and efficient idea. It doesn't cost us anything. It allows them to access more clients. It's just wonderful. I guess the question I have for you didn't say banker, you said, what did you say?
So we're a credit union.
Okay, got it. So the
we're
credit
co-op.
Co-op.
Yeah.
Is, would insurance be, I think being not properly insured on real property, cars, life, health, disability is a big piece of financial literacy. I know that you're a banking institution. Is that something that would be covered in the average sort of financial planning program, insurances?
So there is some programming, and what we love to do, because we've already invested in all the programming through Balance, is work with local partners when we're not the experts in the subject, and bring them in, because we are, really community-based here in Evanston. I've worked with Joe Romano and Romano Brothers, we speak about investment options, and so that's kind of what we're all about in the credit union.
So like on Tuesday would be the insurance.
So we have a lot of the content, and if we have that insurance content available, we have insurance content, we have some investment content available. Balance is great because they're always rolling out new stuff, and part of our licensing agreement with them is we get it as soon as they roll it out. So everything that we have available, if it's not our area of expertise or a product or service we can provide to the credit union, then we'll bring in a local partner to present with us on that content.
Okay, so I would, when you start to put together the RFP or Q, that the whole family is included in the financial, so youth up to seniors and those that are preparing for retirement, and then insurance, so those, I think those things are important, that they cover everyone in the household, folks preparing for college and college debt, and not focused on just one area of financial planning. And I'm sure Daisy is sitting on her hands right now because she has an expertise in that background too, so.
Can you further define youth in your?
I would say children. I think that children should have some access to, and they don't you do a program for youth already? Or is it teenagers?
So we do. We've gone as young as 8 or 9.
Right.
But it's more fun at that point and just learning the basics about money and the value of money. Really around getting into high school and middle of high school is when you can start to talk about needs versus wants and creating a budget and credit. Before that, it's a little bit over the head and hard to keep the attention.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those ones in high school, they could teach their parents.
Yes.
So you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
The Levy Center has wonderful programs for seniors.
So, on the agenda, this is listed as an item for consideration. It doesn't technically need a formal vote, but, maybe we could do a vote affirmation that is.
I think it would be outlined as great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Proper to
great.
move
So
forward.
the
Yeah,
direction
I
is
think it's-
please.
Okay.
Let's
Please
go
move
forward.
Okay.
Uh-huh, yes. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
And then we have E, business license process change.
Okay, again, this is not an item for consideration, this was approved by the city council in 2018 during the budget hearings. That's the proper term we use in Evanston, but we wanted to make sure that we were bringing it back to the committee as a reminder that we're moving forward with this in the fall, the idea being that we're going to shift from a business license process to a business registration. Some have likened this, and unfortunately, to a small business tax, and I'm just being frank, it kind of is, and but on the flip side of that, we're getting some important data, we're getting some important life safety information that we can report on. Occasionally, we have inspections of it, and let me take one step back. The big change is that we're adding home-based businesses to this. If you remember, Mr. Powell and other members of the committee did not like that change, but we have something in the range of 2,000 or 1,500 home-based businesses that we don't feel like we can get information to, we can't really interact with because we don't know who they are. So what we're trying to attempt is using state data to have a group of home-based businesses have better, in our opinion, we'll be able to better service them by providing them information about business-to-business opportunities, and we, on occasion, are asked to go inspect these businesses when neighbors, nosy neighbors or not, they'll call and say, hey, there's somebody operating a business out of their backyard or whatever it is. So we're often sent out to verify if they're legitimate businesses. So it's more of a reminder, and if there are any additional suggestions, comments, before we go live with this in the fall, I'd like the opportunity now to hear those so we can finalize it. And one last point, back in 2008, apparently the city council approved a $25 home-based business registration or license fee. And I don't know, it's been in the books for all these years. And then there's also conflicting language about we don't license home-based businesses, so it was never implemented or codified.
Oh my gosh.
So now we clean that up, that'll be part of the process in the fall, and we'll move forward. Evanston now reported today that the Chamber of Commerce is okay with it. I wouldn't say that they're supportive of it. I presented it to their board this week. They did not voice any concern with the program and thought it could be a good resource for them as well. That's all I have to say.
Are we doing professional services?
Yes.
How much are we charging?
Depends on the size of the business, but most of them will be a smaller size. I have it outlined.
Anything under
25.
2,000 square feet is $75, unless you're a home-based business.
How much?
Professional services.
$75 if your business is 3,000 square feet or less, if you're an office or.
If you're a lawyer or a doctor?
By the way, food businesses, Mr. Powell, you're gonna be
$5,000 for.
more than
I thought it was
Pecky's-
more than that.
Pecky's ribs.
Right, it's $1 per.
That's only if you have
It's
ribs.
$1 a rib.
$1 rib.
Per week.
But in all seriousness, the
You know,
food,
you gonna make me vote for Trump. Go ahead.
the food establishment process is not going to change. That has a whole licensing and health and safety. thing.
Yeah,
So
we pay enough.
well, you're not part of this.
Good.
Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I have some questions, and I'm a little new to the discussion, so I didn't have the benefit of previous discussions. So that was my role probably a year ago. I had a home-based business. I was a sole employer LLC, so this would have been me. And so my concern is that in what way will this act as a disincentive for the large community of people that choose to work from their home, operate their businesses from home, our proximity to, Chicago, make us prime for that kind of activity. And I want to understand if, with this, with this fee, this whatever, however you're calling it, are we delivering any services as a part of it that are really gonna be of value? Because I would like to see Evanston sort of serve this community, with meetups, with, some sort of, something that has some interest that provides value as opposed to, a small business owner operating out of their home, many of whom are women that are re-entering the workforce and reestablishing themselves, as it being seen as a disincentive. I want to embrace those businesses because that's really an important piece of our economy.
So, Ms. Egan, thank you for bringing that forward. I would like to see a nexus between the fee and the service, and we're gonna try that. The question will be, what services do home-based businesses want? And we have to figure that out, right? That's something for Paulina and I. You haven't met our other colleague, Katie Bowden. She's on maternity leave at the moment. But that's kind of our internal charge. If we can work with the community and the city council to, what did I estimated, by the way, we're not sure how much it's gonna generate, but if it does generate kind of the extreme ends, $250,000 line of funding coming in, can we tie some of that revenue from this program to direct services? We as staff have to be charged with those ideas and bring them forward to the committee, and we'll do that. But we won't know until we get feedback from the home-based community if that is of value, right? So.
And was the impetus for this finding a new revenue generation?
No.
Or better improving the data you have on this?
Frankly, for me, I was very frustrated with our data. The state has a list, it's 15,000 lines long, of every entity, property LLCs,
Yep.
trusts, so on and so forth. And you probably know a lot of this from your 9-to-5 work that you do. So I get simple questions like, how many businesses are there in Evanston? Or what's your home-based business population like? Or who's the biggest employer? We know who the biggest ones are just from feeling it. Northwestern's the biggest in the city. But once you get past those top 5, we have no idea knowing what the size of businesses are. And it's ironic because the state of Illinois will ask us to provide a list of the top 10 businesses in Evanston. Well, we don't know what the information is because they don't collect it. So we're going to try to be sensitive to not sharing proprietary data. Information like number of employees is proprietary for some firms. The other thing I thought about today, based on a conversation I had with somebody from the community, is let's not do an automatic an opt-out. Like we're gonna make sure that people have access to our newsletters and other city information. But we are not going to make the assumption that they want that. We're going to do an opt-in, right? So here's how you opt into it. Please go here. This is the information that we're going to provide to you. So that is existing information. But the next step will be how do we create programs that will benefit home-based businesses? Because I know you were saying that tongue-in-cheek, but I'd like to see some of those kitchen table businesses get out into bricks and mortar, which will generate some revenue for us.
And Paul, if I can build on that, because we have programs that are in place, so both myself and Alden City serves on the MWP committee. And so we are currently looking at our City of Evanston's 20K and underspend. Staff doesn't have to bring those to council for approval. So we spend approximately $13 million in 20K and under category. and 90% of that goes outside of Evanston. So when we start to collect the information, I mean, we are actively seeking ways to funnel that money back into the city. We currently have a $5,000 pilot program that we're looking at right now, just doing an inventory of our main commodities that we purchase, and then trying to pair that up with our local businesses. In addition to that, we have a procurement 101 where we partner with Northwestern, Evanston Hospital, not Evanston Hospital, Evans Township District 65, Rotary. When you add it up, I think it was somewhere around X amount of $1 billion in just procurement alone, and we get about 45 businesses. So if we have that data and information, that's now being pumped directly to businesses like yours, who I would think that if you had an opportunity to meet face-to-face with someone from Northwestern, ETHS, down the list, that alone would be the value. And then another perfect example is, Robert Crown, when we were in the early stages of trying to identify businesses that could supply resources. Just the list goes on. So it starts with getting to know who you are, and I think that $25 is a nominal fee to give you access to more information. But that's just my promise.
Alderman Rainey?
I was going to go right along those lines. We don't know about you, but you don't know about us. For example, tonight we gave away several $1,000s. Probably lots of people in home-based businesses could use a lot of that money. And I find it very surprising that so many things that we know about and that we have, when I talk to people, they don't know that it's there. And that would be one way. And I really hope that the $25 won't be a disincentive, especially it will be a disincentive if we don't share what we know when we do that, when we make that charge. So that's a really good point that you mentioned, because we have to tell people what we know. And I think it's really important. It's not a money-making proposition.
And that should probably be rolled out when we market it, if it passes through the budget, the why, right?
Right.
A big part of it.
That's a good point.
So, I promise to keep this really brief, but to finalize something that Alderman Braithwaite started, I wish I would have led with that. I think a key component, we talk about procurement, but Alderman Braithwaite didn't say the word MWEBE, right? And that's something that we're going to be collecting. You implied it.
Oh.
You implied it.
Yeah.
We are going to ask it directly, because today, as hard as we try, we still don't have an accurate assessment of who our minority businesses are and who our women-owned businesses are. It's just, it's really silly that we don't have this information. So we're going to let people self-report, and to the extent that there's programs that require validation, we'll assist with that. But that will give us the opportunity to, people ask, like, who are your minority businesses? We have procurement opportunities. And we have a committee that does a wonderful job, and they have some people listed in their directory, but there's a lot more. So I'll stop myself there.
Thank you. This is good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Was there any further discussion? Thank you. So that's not, you're moving ahead with that. We don't
Again,
need to.
it's just a discussion item. I didn't want anybody to be surprised when it appears again. Again, the local media has covered it, and that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that it's transparent and the word is out. And if we get feedback that this is a non-starter for small business, that this just cannot, if we're not able, we'll reevaluate from time to time and determine. So we will explain
The value is worth it. Thank you, Paul. And then we have no items for discussion. We have communication. Any communication from economic development for the committee, or any announcements from the committee? I have an announcement. We approved on Monday a new restaurant that's gonna come to the Gibbs Morrison Cafe that was previously First Slice. And, right, exactly, so we can go there, we can have coffee and meals, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it is a lovely, healthy alternative to neighborhood food. And They are committed to being open in time for the school year to start, but they feel like they can mobilize pretty quickly and get open before then. So more information will come about a grand opening or soft opening, or when you can go and enjoy food at Lighthouse Whole Food Grill Evanston. They currently have a location in Hyde Park. They have 6 restaurants, minority-owned, woman-owned restaurant.
With some additional outreach to.
Yes. Want me to tell all of them?
So
Okay.
that one last piece.
So they do, they have a model that they employ the neighborhood and they feed the hungry, and they have a workforce development component that is proven very valuable to the neighborhood that they serve. And much like everything that Mr. Powell has done for 30 years, how long has it been?
36.
36. Very similar to what Mr. Powell has done, a different type of cuisine. But we are excited. Their model will have them closed on, is it Saturday and Sunday that they're closed?
I feel like it was, I feel like it was Sunday.
Yeah, so their model will have them close at least one day, which will allow the community to still enjoy Gibbs Morrison, because it's really become an important rental spot for baby showers and birthday parties and community meetings. So that's something that I should have added on Monday, that the community still will have access to the building.
And Alderman Buseman's transportation and parking tonight approved additional 2-hour parking across the street. So that the business district now has more parking.
Say that again?
So I should add that, because
Yeah.
there's even more to it. So we have created, I think it's almost 40 spots that we designated. So there's the additional 2-hour parking. Also, we have, we own the lot at Church and Darrow, so there's an additional 11 spots in that alley that are designated for Church Dodge businesses and their staff. And then we also designated additional parking on Brown between the alley and Church Street. So we created about 40 new spots for parking so that folks can enjoy the businesses right around that area, which include Giro Planet. You can go there now and get tacos, and C&W, you can go there and get snacks and ice cream, and we have the 2 barbershops and the beauty supply store.
Yes.
So accessing it won't be a barrier anymore, thanks to the hard work of our staff and the commitment to the parking committee.
Right, I would also add, Mr. Powell, sorry to interrupt, Alderman Simmons held, I think, 2 community meetings to meet with the businesses about this parking, and we had a lot of feedback, and we've responded with, thanks to your committee, a good plan, and it's done. So, hopefully we won't hear more.
Alderman Rainey has one comment.
This is a picture of their hamburger.
Okay.
Yeah, so their meat is like grass-fed and
Yeah.
wild caught and all for organic.
Locally
and-
sourced, yeah, they had our mouths watering
Yeah.
on Monday night.
And so with that, do we have any other, Mr.
No,
Powell?
I just want to say, I'm glad to hear that you got that parking, because when I go get my haircut, those folks always complain about the parking, the tickets and everything. So that's good, so I'll go tomorrow and get my haircut. And I
It
can
won't
let
be
them
in
know.
place until.
Just as long as they know sometime.
The other spots are available now.
And one other thing is that new restaurant that's open, I'm really happy to hear that they have 6. Because when you go from 2 to 3, that makes you a break in our industry. So
Okay.
it's great to know they have 6, so that should make it.
Good, that's encouraging. Yep. Any further comments, discussion? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Motion, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.